Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and I just got out of the theater from seeing the new Jordan Peele film, Nope, and let's just say I've got a lot of thoughts about this movie. So when it comes to Jordan Peele's movies, this is the third now in his career. He first started off with the film Get Out, he then made the film Us, and now the film Nope. So it's like he's starting to, I feel, become very obsessive over creating these interesting single name, single word titles for his movies. I'm going to be very interested to see if he tries to continue this or how long he continues this. But I will say that as far as the films that he has made, this is probably the one that I find to be the most palatable, or the one that is the most mainstream, even though the story itself is definitely not going to be something that every single person is going to necessarily love. And what I mean by that this is the most mainstream of his stories is that every other film that Jordan Peele has made up to this point has had a major focus be about race. And there really is no better way of putting it. The films have really been very race baity. Basically, it's all been about trying to not necessarily cause or raise something to the level of having a discussion or for people to be willing to have a discussion on certain important topics or issues, but rather he was like, hey, I'm going to tell a really interesting story, but then I'm going to make it all about race. I'm going to make it all about this. And it's really what makes the other films in his repertoire kind of unpalatable, because there's clearly a sign of a really talented filmmaker in each of those films. Like, there's parts of Get Out which are really well done. There's parts of Us that are really well done. So I think that this movie, the film Nope, is definitely a lot more mainstream. But by mainstream, what I just mean by that is that he's not trying to isolate the audience in the same way that he has in other films. And so if anyone is concerned about that, and I know that there are many people that are, just know that this movie is definitely more palatable from that direction. As far as the actual story itself goes, it is definitely more of a slow burn than I was actually expecting it to be. There are definitely some moments throughout the film, even from the very beginning, where the tone is very set that, yes, this is something that still is within this horror genre that Jordan Peele has become very synonymous with in all of his films. You know, even the movies that aren't necessarily full-blown horror films, are not meant to be full-blown horror films, there's still that horror dynamic that exists with all of them. When it comes to the film Nope itself, it is one that has a very similar dynamic. It tries to do something similar in that respect, where it does have those horror elements sprinkled throughout the film, including up to the very beginning of the film itself. But it is also one that, as far as the narrative is concerned and as far as the unveiling of the plot, it definitely does take a little bit more time than I think that it probably should, or that has any right to, because it definitely feels slow throughout the film, throughout different moments of the film itself. When there's actually stuff going on screen, when you're finding out a little bit more about what in the world is actually going on, if you've seen the trailer, you have an idea of, oh man, there's some stuff going to be going on in this film, right? The actual title of the film, Nope, is brought up in the movie, and I'm sure that people were kind of expecting that to be the case, so I don't really find that to be much of a spoiler. But let's just say that it is very entertaining when that does come up, the times that it does come up in the actual film itself. As far as whether or not it's a really scary movie or not, as I said, there are some horror elements within the film, but I don't necessarily think that this is going to scare the socks off of anybody necessarily. So if you're someone where you like a lot of jump scares and you maybe even like psychological thrillers, this one really isn't that. I mean, as I said, it almost feels like, in a certain way, a more drawn out and more in-your-face episode of The Twilight Zone, a very long episode of The Twilight Zone, a very, very long episode, where there are things that you think are going to happen, and then all of a sudden things start to unveil, the story starts to unveil, and you start to realize exactly what is going on, what is impacting, what are they actually seeing, what is actually going on in this little ranch. But at the same time, it gives you a little bit more information than you would typically get in a Twilight Zone episode as well. So again, that comparison works only to a certain extent. As far as the overall feel of the film, or the acting in the film, I should really point to that more so. The acting in the film is pretty solid. I mean, Jordan Peele does a really good job with his actors, and I think he did a great job in the casting of this film, because everyone does a phenomenal job. The score is also very much, I think, underrated. Haven't heard a lot of people talking about the score. I know that there were a lot of review embargoes on the movie, which again, kudos to them for understanding, hey, yeah, this is going to be a movie that some people are probably going to really enjoy. Some people are probably going to hate it. it, and some people are going to say, okay, that was a movie and it exists. And I think that is probably where I fall more into as far as the categories are concerned, because I didn't love the movie, I didn't hate the movie, but also at the same time, I don't know if I would ever necessarily want to see this film ever again, because once you know what the story is and how the story is going to play out, you think to yourself, okay, well, now I have to understand it and look at it from that perspective or from that view, knowing the things that I know. And it's not a journey that I feel is worth going on a second time. And so if I had to give this film a grade off the bat, I'd probably give it a B-, because just like with his other films, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. He was working with a very talented cinematographer. He's working with a very talented composer as well. So all of those elements are there. He's got great actors on screen. And the story is intriguing to a point and almost to a fault. But I do think that in the end, this is going to be a story that, though, is more palatable as far as how it deals with the issue of race, where his other films are just so heavily focused on that issue and it becomes so distracting, and it's clear that it's just race baiting in those movies. He doesn't have that in this one, but then the story isn't nearly as interesting as some of the other stories he has told so far. And so with that, I think that a B- is pretty much where I want to land when it comes to this movie at this point in time. But those are my thoughts about Nope. I know I'm being a little bit cryptic and I'm not being that descriptive, but I don't want to spoil anything too much for people who have actual an interest in going to see the movie. What I can say, though, is that it's not race baity like the other films that he's done, and there are some interesting elements, some interesting dynamics in the actual film, and I think that some people will come out enjoying it, some people will come out hating it. I can say definitely that it does drag, and I don't think this is a film that's going to be really that rewatchable. I think that it's probably going to do pretty well as far as the box office is concerned, because Jordan Peele's films tend to do pretty well, especially for films of their price. And if it does about the same amount of money that his other films have done, then it's set to make a little bit of profit, and he'll continue to move forward in that direction with his filmmaking career, I would imagine. So anyway, have you seen Nope, though? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, loud that fire button. Honestly, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.
And now for a huge special shout out to my July Patreon Subscribe Star and Locals members at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above. First starting off with Brandon, let's go Brandon, Chris from the 80s, who you can check out over on YouTube, Garrett Searles, Hymir Ari Hymason, Jeff Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Father, Luca Illick, Orange Hat Reviews, who you can also check out over on his YouTube channel as well. Congrats on recently getting to 1,000 subscribers. Rosetta Allen, who you can also find on YouTube as well. Stan Andrian and Miss Martin Muses, who also has her own YouTube channel. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on the platform of Patreon. We also have my Subscribe Star members, Matt317, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, John B, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alice McCarthy Jr., shout out to you, good sir, and continue that awesome recovery that you are doing. Dean Heiss, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and ZK-Man. ZK-Man, you can find out over and follow him on Twitter as well. And we also have my Locals members. We have of course, the lovely and amazing Minnesota hockey fan. How about a hockey player? UAB UAB Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win, and Robert Barnes, as well as Brett D90. Thank you very much. And my last supporter, of course, is the amazing Tina B, Empress of the Universe, one of my mods on the channel. Check out her new show with my other Valkyrie, Stephanie B, on her channel, Tina B's channel, which is called Soup to Nuts. Go check that out because it is pretty awesome and fun content. Anyway, that is going to be it for all of my Keeper of the Bifrost level members and above. If you want your name shout out at the end of every video and live stream, please make sure that you check out the top link of the video description. It is W.lo, the Willow link, as I like to call it, and you can find my Patreon, Subscribe Star, etc., where you can get not only shout outs, but also access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flickpick Flickinger every single month, and also access to giveaways of Blu-rays, 4Ks, etc., all that good stuff. Check that out in the video description. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.